yeah, it feels like weird too that it's just so like I don't even know when we started doing that, like being able to buy songs off of people and stuff.
Yeah,
It
it's
feels like
crazy.
so wrong, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand like at some point how it like has to happen. I just think you should build it up as much as you can independently first, so you can like make a living. And I don't know, like just it's if you do it more yourself off the bat and are able to see money off of that, you're able to fuel your artistry more long
Uh-huh.
term than like you have a little hype money and then the hype goes away because the label people are looking at the new hype person, the new person that just blew up.
Right. Well, I'm Adam, and this is about you and your journey in music and how you got to where you are now. And obviously, we'll talk about the new album as well.
Cool. Where are you located right now?
I'm actually south of Nashville.
Oh, sick. Cool.
Yeah.
The same
Aren't you?
city.
Did I see that you're from or in Nashville? Are you in Nashville?
Yeah, I'm like on the west side. So like the
Okay.
nation.
Oh, very cool. I'm
Yeah.
south in the burbs down by Franklin.
Nice. I love going out there.
Oh yeah, I've got two kids, so you know you got to have that Williamson County
Oh
School
yeah.
District.
Very true. Very true. Yeah.
uh, right on. Well, I guess were you born and raised here in Nashville?
No, I'm from Atlanta originally.
Oh, okay. Talk to me about that a little bit.
So I don't know, I just like grew up in Atlanta and I came to Nashville to pursue music, but it was like I went, oh my God, my cat is like,
Oh, good.
oh my God. She like never does this. Okay. But yeah, I
She's
grew up in
excited.
Atlanta. She's very excited. Um, I started playing violin when I was like 5, and then started picking up other instruments as I like grew older and stuff. And then when it was time to like go to college, originally I did not want to go, but
Mhm.
I also didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was like, I guess I might as well try to do like music school or something. So I went to music school in Nashville, and then I started writing once I got to Nashville, and then
Mhm.
producing after that because I didn't want to pay somebody like $400 for a demo. And
Sure. Well,
um,
sorry. Do you mind if we back up real quick
yeah,
here?
yeah.
Okay, cool. Because I love all of this. I want to just dive in a little deeper if that's cool.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Atlanta, and you said you started playing a violin at 5. I did see a video of you on Instagram, like a little
Hmm.
clip of you playing the violin and different pieces of your childhood. But um, growing up in Atlanta, did you live close to the city? Like, I mean, there's a lot of music going on in Atlanta. There's a lot of media and entertainment going on there now.
Yeah, no, it was a great place to grow up because I grew up in Roswell, which was like 30 minutes outside of Atlanta. So
Okay.
it's like a suburb of it, but there's like a train that goes into Atlanta and everything. So I grew up going into the city a lot to see shows and stuff. But I don't know, my childhood was a lot of like classical music with
Mhm.
violin. And then when I started playing my own instruments like guitar and piano and stuff, it was like I I very like naturally started playing stuff I was listening to like at the time
Sure.
growing up, which was like, you know, whatever's on the radio or like whatever new band I had just seen downtown or something. So yeah, I didn't really like do a lot like in the city with my own music growing up or
Yeah,
anything. I
yeah.
didn't like know exactly
But it sounds like
first.
you were able to go into, I mean, there's a train that goes into the city and you saw bands in the city. Like, what were some of those early shows? Like, what bands were you going to see? Or would you just go check out new music if you saw something kind of cool or a friend's band or something?
Oh, I would always see like whatever. I was always like really into like Young the Giant, or like I saw
Oh,
Panic
rad.
too. Like, so I would go see a band and then whoever like opened for them, me and my friend, like best friend, would like look up that band and then we'd go see that band the next time they came
Oh,
through,
that's
like
cool.
their opener. So it was a lot of that. And then I also was just like, I don't know, on weekends and stuff, I was very much like I would just like look up discography of bands and then I would see like what other bands are like related to them and stuff. So I
No,
was
that's awesome. Not a
very
lot of
much,
people
I
do that
loved,
anymore, I feel
yeah,
like.
I was such like an actual like fangirl in high school and middle school. I was just like obsessed with the world of music because it was so different than like the classical stuff I had started playing
Mhm.
when I was young.
Sure.
So I loved that idea of like, I don't know, performing stuff that was like not written by somebody dead.
Right. Or even kind of discovering bands, right? I mean,
Yeah,
because the bands that are opening up are the ones that are going to be the next, big deal. I
yeah,
remember early, like it was like 2002, like Coachella, back before it was like this massive deal. My buddy was like, "Oh, I want to go to Coachella this year. Like, I want to see this band called the Killers." And I'm like, "Oh, cool." And they were like the second band. Like, if you look up the old lineup, they're like the second band in like the super minuscule font where you need like a microscope
yeah.
to see it. And obviously now they're like one of the biggest bands on
That
the
is so
planet.
wild.
So it's
Yeah,
just like to see, somebody's gonna be like, "Oh, I saw, Cara Carabae open up for Charlotte Sands, and now she's, this big deal." So I mean, it's
yeah.
so cool to see that progression
No,
of.
I love it. And like I think one of the wildest shows I've seen was like in Nashville, probably like 5 or 6 years ago, but I saw Lizzo open for Haim,
Oh
which is like the
wow,
coolest combo. And I
yeah.
already like had the reason I heard of Lizzo was because of Haim and that tour. Because
Wow.
I've seen Haim like 2 or 3 times now, and they're so freaking good live.
Mhm.
But I remember being like, that is like the wildest combo. And Truth Hurts was out, but it wasn't as big as like it had gotten yet because that song was out for a couple years before it like really blew up.
Oh, I know.
I think that is like the best story ever because
No, that is
I was
so
literally like, how is
incredible.
this not number one? This is like the best shit. And she was like on stage in a wedding dress and shit too. Like it was, she was
That,
still like the same
like,
artist that she is
badass.
today, but
Sure.
like she just
Not the
needed to be
scale.
discovered. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I used to work on the radio, on alternative radio for a lot of years before I moved here in Nashville. And I remember I heard Juice when it was
Mm,
coming out, and I was like telling the top, because our radio station was within a group of other
right.
ones in the top 40 station. I was going to the program director and being like, "You need to play this, this song is so good."
Yeah.
And she didn't get on board until obviously Truth Hurts became a hit. And I'm like,
Yeah.
eh.
Oh yeah.
Play the waiting game.
Definitely.
But that's so cool that you saw her that early on. Wow.
Yeah. No, that's why I love, I don't know, I like to see the opener anyway too if I'm going to see a show.
Hmm.
Um, or at least like look them up before and stuff too, because it's like you just never know who's like about to like break. It's so cool.
Right, right.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you. That's so cool.
Yeah.
To get into violin at 5, do you come from a musical family at all? Like, that seems like such a unique instrument to start off on.
It really is. Yeah, so my mom's side of the family is super musical. Like she plays classical piano really
Oh
well.
wow.
And then like my grandparents on that side like grew up singing and stuff too. So um it's a very musical family. And she had been like, "Oh, what do you want to play?" Like I specifically remember her being like, "You need to play an instrument. What do you want to play?" And I was like, "I want to play flute." And she's like, "They don't make them that small. You want to play violin." When they do, they make like piccolos and stuff. But I think she was
Sure.
just like imagining a 5-year-old just like blowing as much air as possible into this like high pitched instrument and was like,
Oh
"I'm not
yeah.
doing that." So I commend her for sticking with violin or telling me to do violin because it
But
has helped a lot with like learning other instruments just because it is like string based and the method that I learned was like by ear. So it helped me like go to other instruments and learn by ear too.
oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
interesting that she did allow the violin though, because I would think it'd be okay, piano or
She
like
had like a
something.
whole end game in mind because I was playing in church growing up. She was
Okay,
like, "I
but
want
still,
you to
like
play in church."
but the violin, you could just be like, like she'd have to listen to that all day.
Yeah, it's very true. Luckily, I think she was banking on the genes like coming through and being like, okay, she can handle this.
There you go.
Musically musical.
So at 5, you pick up violin, and are you in like lessons pretty frequently? Like, and was it something that you were really interested in once you started playing it? Was it like, oh, this is fun, like I'm going to keep doing it, or did it feel more like a chore? I mean, at 5, I'm sure it's hard to think back.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I was like in lessons like once a week, and then there was like a group class I would go to with a bunch of other people playing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like I was consistently in lessons from like 5 to like end of high school. So it's weird because I don't remember a time not doing it, and it just feels like kind of like breathing, because I'm like, I just do it, like I don't really think about it. And so I feel like there's never a point where I was like, I really enjoy this. It's just like something I can do.
It was just part of your life. Sure.
Yeah. So I think that's why when I like picked up other instruments, I was like, oh, I enjoy this. And there are like points in my life where I was like, where I would like compose stuff for like strings or whatever. Like I would like hear like a Passion Pit song, and I would be like, this would be like cool if I can like arrange this or something. And so I would make little arrangements and bring it to my friends like at school and be like, can we play this during like our lunch break? And they'd be like, we have homework. Like, I don't really, but they would do it like just so I could hear it and stuff. So there were things that I knew how to apply it to enjoy it, but it still is one of those things where it's like, I don't even think about it. So it was hard for me to like feel like I could enjoy it or something. So I think that's why I gravitated towards like newer things where I associated like new feelings with them.
Mm-hmm. But even to have the capability to take a Passion Pit song and play it on violin, I mean, that to me, that sounds like it'd sound rad anyway.
Oh yeah, it was sick. I could definitely like, I don't know, I see a point in my life where I could be like composing something for like a movie or something. Like I would love to do something like that at some point.
Like a movie score?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know, because I feel like I have access to all that. And I use violin a lot, like in my music too, anyway. Like if I feel like there needs to be strings, like I also rent a cello that I have here too. And like,
oh, cool.
I'll just like mess around until something sounds cool.
You ever listen to Two Cellos?
To what?
The group Two Cellos. Have you heard them?
Yes. Yeah, I don't listen to them often, but
but you know who they are. Yeah, they have like distortion pedals and stuff. Like they can play like Green Day. Like it's just really interesting. It kind of reminded me.
That is really cool. I actually haven't tried like they don't have any electric string instruments, but that is really cool.
Yeah. Okay, so you're playing violin, and is that the instrument? I mean, it sounds like you went on and played other instruments just out of, curiosity or whatever, or wanting to play those instruments. But did you play violin through middle school, high school? Like, were you in like the orchestra and all of that?
Yeah, I starting in elementary school, I was like in advanced orchestras and stuff. And it was funny because I was in like a youth orchestra in elementary school, and like the program that I did, so you learn by ear and then you learn to read music later on.
Wow,
and I was
that's
a lot
cool.
slower with learning how to read music, because I was like, why would I learn how to read music if I can just like hear it and play it? Like,
yeah, exactly.
It was just like extra effort I did not want to put in. So it was funny because I was in like a youth orchestra, and like if we were playing a piece for the first time, my mom would like write the notes above it. And I was like sitting next to these like 8th graders, and I'm like in 4th grade, and I'm just like, can we use my sheet music so I can read?
Right.
But I eventually got the hang of it and stuff. But yeah,
so you can now read music.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's cool. I didn't know a lot of people can't, even really famous musicians.
Yeah, no, I did like AP music theory and stuff like in high school too. And so music theory was always like chill for me. It's kind of like math. Like I'm like, I know it, I just don't feel like doing it. It's just like work when I can use a calculator. Like I can like just use things I already like know or whatever.
But I'm sure it comes in handy when it comes to writing and knowing what notes go together and creating melodies and stuff. Yeah.
No, it definitely does come in handy. At least like I don't ever think like, oh, I'm going to go to the 4 minor here or like whatever.
You just do it, right?
Yeah, because it is like very natural, but it does help when I am like doing like a string part on like one of my songs, and I'm like, okay, realistically, what would this part do? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if I think about it. So it is very useful, and I'm very like grateful to have been able to like learn all of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Aside from violin, what was like, did you play guitar next? Like, what was kind of the route you went?
I started piano lessons, and it was like classical piano at first, and I
Mhm.
was like, I cannot do this. I do not like doing scales. So I quickly stopped that.
What age was this? Just so I can timeline it here.
Maybe like 4th or 5th grade.
Okay, so you're still really young.
Yeah, still young. And I also like, it was one of those things that like my mom played piano, so I was like, I don't want to do this.
Sure.
Like, you do this. So but yeah, it was just like not for me, so I stopped doing that. But I still played, and I played by ear, because I noticed like other people my age were like starting to learn how to play, and they would do like chords, and I would look at their hands and be like, oh, that's easy, you're literally doing that. And so I like
Right.
started to learn by ear a little. And then in 8th grade is when I started playing guitar. And between that and middle school, because my orchestra was really small,
Mhm.
and it was like there was no like middle school advanced orchestra. It was just like bass orchestra. And we like did not have like a cello player. So then I like jumped over to cello and like learned how to play like enough to like get by in that. And then I like played viola one year too. So I think hopping around on those definitely helped me like feel like, oh, guitar, I can just like pick this up. Like it's fine.
Right, right. I know I was always envious of my friend who could play piano really well. And then I played guitar, or can, I guess, play
Yeah.
guitar. I'm not good at it, but I can get by. And he had never played guitar. And I remember he got it. He's like, I want to learn. And he had a guitar. He was better than me in like a month. Like, just because he was so good at piano. And then he just picks it up and he's doing finger picking, all this shit. I'm like, oh, wow, you just totally destroyed me within literally a month, and I had been playing it for years.
Yeah. Well, he probably played literally every single day for that entire month. Like,
yeah, but it was like, to be that good that quick, I'm like, oh, okay, this is,
yeah.
I mean, but that's cool though. So like, was there a particular reason? I mean, it sounds like you went and saw a lot of bands, but was there somebody that played guitar that you're like, oh wow, like, or a band that you wanted to, like, what gravitated you to wanting to write songs or learn guitar?
I don't think it was anything like necessarily like, nothing like jumps out, but a
Mhm.
lot of people my age were like getting guitars for Christmas and stuff,
Okay,
and like
gotcha.
learning how to play. And I think it was maybe a little like competitive in me to be like, I can do that too, or something.
Right, right.
But I mean, like the first things I learned how to play were like tabs of like, I think like Kiss Me by Sixpence, what is it, Sixpence None the Lesser or whatever.
Oh yeah, okay.
But like that was like one of the first songs I learned how to play. And like I remember like also looking up like a Paramore tab too. And I did like one lesson at like a guitar center after I'd like learned some basic things, and I wanted to learn the solo to like, I forget what it was. Maybe it was like Misery Business or something.
Mhm.
And I remember being like, this is like he's talking to me like I'm dumb. Like I do not want to do this. And so
You're
I
like,
like,
just show me the notes, you
yeah.
idiot.
And so I literally like walked out of that lesson, and I was like, I don't need lessons. Like that was stupid. I can just learn all this online. So the internet definitely helped me with learning. And like the history of like me learning how to play violin and stuff definitely helped me like apply to guitar. But yeah.
Were you able to like, I mean, I'm old, so it's like guitar, ultimate guitar tab was like the thing. Like if you could get that thing to load on your dial-up internet, it was like game changing. So like, did you have like YouTube and stuff to be able to reference?
I was more like ultimate guitar, so I would look at guitar tabs, and
Okay.
I was less of like a YouTube person. It's even now, like if I have like if I'm like, oh, how do I do this at Ableton or something, I'll like go to a YouTube video and I'm like, I cannot sit through this person talking.
This 45-minute explanation of something that he could show you in like 30 seconds.
Exactly. And
He's
they're
like,
like,
well,
oh,
if you want to
by
learn
the
how to do
way.
this first, let me show you how to turn the program on. You're like, oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah. It's so much. Oh my God.
That's funny. Do you start writing songs in high school, or when do you start doing that?
I started a little in high school and I hated literally everything I wrote. I was like, this is so dumb. I could not be worse at this. So I started in college again. And the difference was I was like in high school, I was trying to write like on paper. And I hated that it was just like sitting around for like anybody to
Oh,
find, or like, I don't know, like it feels weird like writing it down and then looking at it and then you're like, this is stupid. And then where I in college was writing on my phone and it was like so easily like hidden,
oh,
also
uh-huh.
like so easy to delete. If I like, I'm like, oh, I hate this word, I'm just gonna delete it. It's not like I have to scribble it out. So I don't know why, but that's like the thing that clicked in my brain. And
Interesting.
I think also being surrounded by so many other songwriters in college helped a lot, because I was like, oh, everybody else is kind of like similar level to me. Like I don't feel like I'm comparing myself to people I listen to all the
Right.
time. Like I'm comparing myself to like my friends and peers who
Instead of
are
like, yeah,
also like
Haley Williams or
figuring
somebody
it
like
out.
that. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Or like literally like Taylor Swift and stuff. And I'm like, I
Okay.
have not had these experiences yet. She's writing about all this shit.
Right.
So, yeah,
Okay. Did you go to Belmont?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. So in high school, well, you said that you didn't know if you wanted to go to college, you didn't know what you wanted to pursue, but you decided to go there. Obviously, you
Mhm.
have the skill set to get in. Was it like, did you go in as a violinist, or like, do you have to specify why you want to
Yeah.
go there?
So my parents for sure, like originally were like, go for violin. I was like,
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to waste time doing that because I know I'm not going to be in an orchestra. Like that is just not my thing. I'm not going to
Mhm.
like be that professionally. And the other option would be like to teach violin. And I do not really have a lot of patience for that because
It's
I know, because
interesting.
I've been in
Yeah.
lessons my whole life and I know how much patience it takes. And I've tried to teach like friends like little things over the years and stuff. And I'm like, I cannot do this. Like, I just know I cannot. I do not have the like teacher patience and like tenderness that requires.
I
So
totally agree. I'm the same way. I'm like, oh
yeah.
my gosh, how do you not understand
But
this?
yes, yeah. And then also when you mix in little kids too, I'm just like, that is
No, not your
not for me.
jam. Um,
Um,
so
yeah, so then
did
I
you
was
go in a
like,
you went okay, sorry, go ahead. I'm cutting you off.
oh no, you're fine. I was just gonna say, so instead I had started taking voice lessons in high school too. Just because that was something I was also interested in. And I was like, I guess I can sing. And so I went in like as a voice major because I was like, that feels more in line with what I want to do than violin, because at least it's like I can choose like the style I want to do and not be stuck with like orchestras and classical music like forever.
Right, right. Did you have to audition as a vocalist to get in then?
Yeah, I did.
Wow. That's impressive to just, be like, like obviously you would have been a shoe-in with the violin and just say,
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to do it as a vocalist. Let's just go for it. And then to be good enough that quickly, that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I also like for my parents, it was like, I'll do like symphony like my freshman year or whatever too. So I was like in the symphony at Belmont for like my first year.
Uh-huh.
Um, I like sat in the back because they were like, you're not like registered for this class. So I would just like be in the back. And even there's like a show every year, like Christmas at Belmont or whatever, where you're supposed to
Yeah.
perform with your ensembles. And I just like did not perform with like my vocal ensemble. I was just like in the orchestra the whole time.
Oh,
So then after that, I
wow.
was like, I just don't have time for this. So
Did they try to like
But
poach you? They're like, oh wow, she's really good at violin. Let's try to get her to do this instead.
no, because they were like, who is
Oh,
this girl? She just
oh,
like, I
she's
just
just
show up
there.
and play and be like, okay, bye. But they
That's
were really
funny.
cool. But I knew a couple other people that did that were like music business majors or something.
Okay.
So it was cool that they like let people do that. And I did make a lot of friends that I normally maybe would not have because we had different classes and stuff.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And
Cool.
do you start songwriting? You said you started songwriting once you were writing on your phone, and that's in college. And what's like, do you just? I guess my question is, when do you start showing people, or when do you start writing songs and being like, oh, I think these are good enough to show someone or to play, one of the open mic nights around town or whatever?
I don't even really know. I feel like it was so normal there to just like write something and just like play it for like your friends or like
So that wasn't ever like concerning to like, you weren't ever like
no.
nervous about that?
No, because it was like everybody was doing it first and stuff. And then I also made friends with people that I started writing with too. So it quickly went from something that I was really scared about to something that was like the norm. So it was easier for me to do that. And then in some of my classes, we had seminars, which were like, you go up and sing for everybody or whatever. And then everyone is like, oh, you could have done this differently or like whatever. So
Cool. So
I
you
like
got some
originally started
feedback.
not doing my own songs. And then I started only doing my own songs after like a certain point of that. So it was like very much encouraged to do that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Was there a moment that, or what kind of changed everything for you as far as like, was there a particular song that you put out or a moment that, because you have a mixtape that you released or like an EP mixtape that you released before this album, which we'll talk about here in a minute.
Yeah.
And a handful of those songs have like a lot of Spotify streams. Like, was there something that you put out? Like, what was kind of the first big, like validating moment? Like, oh, this is something that's working and I need to keep pursuing it.
Yeah.
Because if you're releasing a bunch of songs and then no one cares, like I could imagine at one point you're like, is this even worth it? Like, should I change what I make? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's hard because I have such I did not like originally intend to be an artist. I was like, as soon as I started songwriting, I was like, I love songwriting. And then I started producing and I was like, I love producing too. And I would rather like do that and not have my voice heard because I wasn't really sure what type of artist I wanted to be yet. I didn't fully understand like what style I not like naturally lean to because I listen to so many different types of music. So I spent a lot of time the summer after I graduated. I was like shopping around with different publishers, which was like I would just go in and like play songs for them. And they'd be like, cool, we'll like set you up with these writers, whatever. So I was doing a lot of that. And because I really just wanted to get a publishing deal. And I was getting really burnt out because I felt like I had talked to every publisher in town and everyone was just like, cool, you should be an artist. And I'd be like, no, like next person. Like,
oh wow.
So, yeah. And then there was a point where
that's cool though, because I mean, sorry to cut you off, but like I always hear the opposite when people will go into these meetings. It's like, oh yeah, they wanted to sign me. Warner Chappell wanted to sign me as a songwriter, but I wanted to be an artist. And instead, it sounds like you're going in and they're like, you should be an artist. Like that's kind of a cool way to have that land, I would think.
Yeah, no, it was cool. It was very frustrating for me too, though, because I was like, but this is like what I want to do.
You wanted to write for other people.
Yeah, and like produce for other people and just like have other people say like the words that I was putting out. I don't know why. I was just like, I just don't want like the attention of it all or anything. But after I was like getting burnout and stuff, I had like a couple weeks or something where I was like, did not have any sessions. And I was very much like, the year after college is a very formative year, I feel like, because you're like, what the fuck am I doing? And then also it's such like you're going out all the time with your friends and like different things are happening. And so I had a lot going on. And so I just started writing by myself for the first time in a really long time. Because I would always like start things by myself, but this was like, I don't know, I was just like going through it. So I wrote a lot by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then one of the songs, I Don't Miss You, that I wrote, I remember I like brought that into like one meeting and they literally were like, why like don't you put this out? And I was like, I don't know. Like I was just like, I don't really have a good answer for that. So yeah, so the year after college, which was like the top of the next year, I was just kind of like, fuck it, I'm gonna put music out this year. Like
what
maybe
year was that?
that'll get me. That's 2019.
Okay, it was 2019. Okay.
So I was like, maybe this will like get me a publishing deal or like get me, I don't know. I'm not doing anything, so I needed to do something. So I started putting out a couple singles. The second single I put out was See You in Hell, and that got on Fresh Finds.
Wow.
And I was like very much like on YouTube videos and like Spotify for Artists, like kind of figuring out like what is the algorithm, like what are the things I should be doing. And as soon as I saw that one got on Fresh Finds, my monthly listeners went up to like 20,000 from like 200. And I was like, okay, I have to put out a song now. And
wow.
I was very much like using the playlisting tool. And the next single I put out was I Don't Miss You. And it got on New Music Friday, like out of the and I literally was like, because I was like on my phone in the middle of the night when it came out, and I was like, this is like not real. It was so weird because I did not know anybody at Spotify. And
yeah, it's crazy how they can just change your life, right? They're just like,
yeah, it was literally someone in the office that was like going through the playlisting and like the, playlisting like submissions and was like, oh, this girl like wrote and produced the song by herself and she's the artist and like she was on Fresh Finds, let me listen to it. And then like literally changed my life.
That's so wild. What was you said the second single you put out? What was the first one?
It was called 3 a.m.
Okay, so 3 a.m. was the very first one. See You in Hell was the second one then. Okay. Yeah. So you put out 3 a.m. and it just didn't, but that one still has a lot of plays, but did that come later? Like after
that came after the fact when I think people were like, who is she?
Who is she? Let's go back into her catalog and see, which is, I'm sure, helpful to have other songs there instead of just the one.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And I think a big reason it like, I don't know, instead of like having a song be on Fresh Finds and be like, okay, this is so cool, like I need another song, whatever. Like I already had a whole mixtape plan that I was going to put out. So
really? So that was already in the works before anything even happened.
Yeah, I was like actively like finishing mixing the songs and like getting them mastered so I could like put them out. So that really helped. And I really like encourage any artist that's like starting to put out music. I'm like, think about like the end goal, because like I just wanted it out for like myself, because I was like, there's a bunch of music I'm really proud of that sounds like myself for the first time ever. And I might as well, like, if I'm going to do it, fucking do it and put it all out. So it was really helpful to have all of that ready to go. And I feel like since I got that New Music Friday placement, I just received a ton of support from Spotify, which was really helpful as an upcoming artist that nobody knows about. They're like, why is this girl on New Music Friday, So it was really helpful.
Does that attract then record labels and managers are like, hey, I bet your email just starts going wild at that point?
Yes. And as someone who is really bad at email, it was like very overwhelming. And it's also funny. And I don't know, because I look back and I'm like, it's always like the more you know now. And I had signed to like my publisher even like before I Don't Miss You came out, because I'd showed them those songs and they were
They
always
knew.
like my dream publisher. So I was like, yeah.
Okay.
They didn't know that though. They were like, you don't like us. Like, I don't know.
You're playing
I
hard
was
to
like, no,
get.
I love you guys. Yeah, no, exactly. So I was trying to be smart about it, and I was like taking different like publishing meetings and stuff. And like, but label wise, I switched to AWOL, who's still like an independent distributor. So I could just like get some cash and stuff. And like not have to sign anything long term and still own everything. Because something I quickly realized with putting stuff out myself was how much money is in masters, especially because I
That's all
produce
the
everything
money.
myself.
Right.
So
Yeah.
all of that money is going to me. And I'm
That's
like,
incredible.
this is how you make a living as an artist. But
yeah. And a lot of people get burned, right? Yeah. They're like, oh, and I've interviewed so many people that have like made this TikTok hit that you know are like, and that's why I love your story, because you didn't say, oh, I went on TikTok finally and just played this thing and then it got 1 billion views and then some people came over to Spotify. But it's like to have the song drove it all, right? I mean, it was the fact that somebody at Spotify was like, this is good, and it is, or 26 million people wouldn't listen to it. But you know what I mean? Like, but to own that instead of having somebody come out to you and be like, oh, hey, I couldn't, I'm from X record label and we're going to buy that song from you basically. And then you can try to do something else. And then all the money that's being made off of that song that they just purchased pretty much from you, you've got to try to follow it up if you're not in some, long deal, like to own everything. That's like life-changing, I'd imagine.
Yeah, no, and I did have like labels like fly me out to New York and like do all this shit and like
I would
really
take
buy
the
me a
meeting,
fucking
right?
guitar and like, but all this I was literally like, I don't know, I was like, I'm not stupid. Like, you're gonna give me something really flashy. And it helped that like some of these people were like creeps and stuff. And I was like, I can like read between the like, I'm not.
You have the street smarts that not a lot of people would have in that situation.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's not like I took one music business class in college, and I literally was like, I was terrible at it. And then I think like when it came to like real life stuff, it also helps like when you have a lawyer that will like take time out of their day to like talk through stuff with you. And I was like really lucky to have a lawyer that I trusted, that I could literally call at any time and be like, explain this to me like I'm 5. So I know exactly what this is.
Did you acquire a lawyer when you were doing those original publishing deals? Like
yeah, so that helped a lot. But yeah, no, I mean, I think the most valuable thing out of anything was like seeing, because I Don't Miss You had come out earlier than my mixtape. And I like saw some of the money come in already from streams and having it all go to my pocket. And I was like, oh, so I should really try to stay independent for like a while.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think if you can do it independent, great. And I do understand the point of having a label when the infrastructure of like your artistry becomes too big and you need more people.
I mean, obviously it makes sense enough to where millions of other people have one, but like to be in the position where you own everything. I mean, that's why Taylor Swift went in and re-recorded all her records, because she didn't own any of the masters.
I love that she did. I am obsessed with that. That is like the coolest thing to me, that she was like,
I'm obsessed with her. I love her.
Yeah.
And when she because I was in radio when that radio creep like grabbed her or whatever, and the fact that she like took him to court, like dragged the whole thing out and then just like asked for $1. I was like, and then I think the guy didn't have $1, like he had to go to his car. It was like the best thing ever. It was like,
had to go to like a gas station ATM.
He's like, shit, man, let me go like call somebody so we would scrounge up 4 quarters. But like, it was just, I just thought that was so cool of her to do. And then obviously re-recording everything. That's what I don't think a lot of people understand. They're like, well, she's a millionaire, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, yeah, but she's not, she wrote all these songs and she's not making any money out of any of it.
And it's also more, I feel like it's even more of like, it feels good to own something that is yours. Like you don't, like,
Yeah, she wrote the song, and
Yeah.
then no, it was like when the Beatles catalog got by Michael Jackson. It was like, oh, these are all songs that were written by these guys, and they don't even own them anymore. It's just like
Yeah.
some piece of
And it
property that
feels,
somebody else has.
yeah, it feels like weird too that it's just so like I don't even know when we started doing that, like being able to buy songs off of people and stuff.
Yeah,
It
it's
feels like
crazy.
so wrong, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand like at some point how it like has to happen. I just think you should build it up as much as you can independently first, so you can like make a living. And I don't know, like just it's if you do it more yourself off the bat and are able to see money off of that, you're able to fuel your artistry more long term than like you have a little hype money and then the hype goes away because the label people are looking at the new hype person, the new person that just blew up.
Right. Or
So
they're giving you the front of, here's 100 grand, now make a record and pay us back. And you're like,
yeah,
oh,
now
no, I can
do
use
it
the
all
money.
yourself
Yeah.
anyway.
I'm going to
Yeah.
use that money to go out with my friends and do this. And then they're like, okay, here's your bill. Whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool that you were able to, I would have taken the people up on those experiences too, like fly me out to New York. I remember I heard a story about
Oh,
Green
I
Day.
took them up on the experiences, but I was
Oh
like, I'm not
yeah.
signing with
Well,
you.
you knew that was like I heard the story about Green Day doing that. Like when they signed to put out Dookie, all
Mm.
the labels wanted them, so they're going and they'd go to some restaurant and order like everything on the menu, just make them spend so much money, take them to like Disneyland and all this shit that
Oh
they knew
yeah.
that they wouldn't. They knew already that they weren't going to sign the label. They're like, well, let's just make them spend a bunch of money on us. Why not?
That, yeah, exactly. That's like the best part of doing this
It's like
is
the most
like
punk rock
milking
thing
people for
ever.
money
Yeah.
and then being like, anyway, thanks. Like, because they're
Yes.
just gonna like screw somebody else over. So you might as
Yeah.
well.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, I want to
They
talk
can
to
be
you.
good people though, too. It's like
Right, right. And
they're
I don't
not-
want to trash them all, obviously, but it's
yeah.
just it's
They don't
hilarious
really
to hear
care
those
either. They write it
stories.
all off. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So well, to have all that momentum going, and then obviously 2020 happens and the world is shut down. Like, did that affect you directly? I mean, to have most of your stuff coming in through streaming, were you playing a lot out, or like when you had the mixtape and you have all these meetings and it's like, do you have this big push like, okay, I'm going to do a tour and this, that, and then it all gets canceled, or what? Like, where were you at when that all kind of happened?
So when that happened, I had just started talking to agents, and I had played a showcase in New York, and I literally the last show I played was like the day before like everything shut down, and I
Oh,
was like in
wow.
LA playing a showcase too. And it was funny because I was there for like a couple weeks, and I was supposed to do a lot more out there, and I was like in a session, and I was like in sessions back to back, and I like went to a liquor store to get like a bottle of wine, and I walk in and someone in front of me is holding like a shit ton of toilet paper, and I was like, that's so weird. Like,
Like, what are you gonna go like
anyway,
TP
yeah, I
someone's
was like,
house?
okay, weird. And I like bought my wine and went home, and like the next day my publisher called me and she was like, are you gonna come home? I was like, what are you talking about? Just because I was like literally just writing the whole time and like in a world of my own. So I was like starting to play some shows, and that was like a goal of 2020 for me, was to like book a tour and like actually be able to like be face to face with fans that I had like just acquired and stuff, and like kind of build it up. And I was in the beginning stages of talking to different managers and stuff too. And it like felt like, I don't know, because at first it didn't feel like it was going to be a long-term thing. It was just like, oh, we'll lock down for a couple weeks, blah, blah,
All
blah.
right, flatten that curve.
And then it very much curved. And it was like, okay, so I guess I'm like gonna release some more music in the meantime and like wait it out.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And so that kind of brings us up to the new record. I mean, you released songs before the new album came out,
Mhm.
in the meantime, but I want to talk, you had another EP, didn't you? Did you put an EP out between? Okay.
Yes. I put out an EP called The Longest Year. It was like part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
And those songs were all songs I'd written like while Songs from 3 a.m. were getting released, because those songs have been written like a while before. So I was like
Okay.
still writing during this time. So all the songs were like old
Older.
feelings, but I was still putting them out. And so it was a weird feeling to me because it started to feel like I'm just putting out songs to put out songs.
Mhm.
And I still am really proud of those songs and what those songs did, because it did definitely help me like feed the fans and like feed myself like as I like put out
Sure.
music. But it definitely felt like oh, it's something to put out music, here's the music to put out, because
Mhm.
I was sitting on those songs for a while. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, this new album, like I said earlier, it is awesome. Like front to back, the whole album is awesome. And even like right away, the first song, you just like I just went into listening to your music just off that first record. I'm like, or not the first record, but I listened to the whole new album first. And then
Yeah.
I went back and listened to your other songs. But like the first song I ever heard from you was the Dead Ends Happy Endings. And I was like, damn, like she's so vulnerable. Like just your lyrics are
Thank you.
so good. I was just shocked right away. And
Thanks.
yeah, and I just think the album is so good. Till the Day I is, I think, one of my favorite ones. That one and what is it? Happy Place. I think that's such a great song.
Thanks. Yeah.
But was the first one you put out then, Till the Day I, the one I just mentioned?
First one I put out was Dead Ends Happy Endings.
Oh, it was that one.
Yeah, because
Okay.
that one kind of like serves as like an intro track anyway, and it's
Right. It kind of sets the stage for the record.
yeah, and it's sonically different, but still like, I don't know, I hadn't like released music in a minute. And
Mhm.
so I really just wanted to like a proper like introduction. And it had the strings thing in it, which was very much like something that I've done across my music. And
Mhm.
I feel like it kind of blended like some of my old style with like you don't know what's coming type of
Right.
thing.
There's
So
no, is that the one? There's no drums in that song, right? Or am I thinking of?
mm-mm.
Yeah,
No.
because I was like, wow, this is just strings in your voice. And then the next song on the record has the drums come in like right away.
Yeah.
Like, oh wow, okay. So this is getting heavier as we kind of go along. But then I mean, obviously it dips and eaves and
Yeah.
flows or whatever the hell you say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think the album is amazing. And I just based off your Instagram, you said Eat Your Heart Out is like your favorite song you ever wrote. Is that still the case?
Yeah. I think me and my friend Megan Redmond wrote that song together, and she's the only other co-writer that's on like some of the songs from 3 a.m.
Okay.
She's on 2 of those songs. So she's someone I've consistently like worked with over the years, and she's like one of my best friends. So I think we literally wrote the song like on Zoom, which is so funny because like we didn't have to. Like we were just like, I'm too lazy. Like, let's just write this on Zoom. Because
That's funny.
we've written songs like on the phone before, like not even FaceTime, just like on the phone, because we've been writing together for so long. And I just had this idea of writing to my younger self that had like all these aspirations of like dreams that I like wanted to accomplish and everything. And I feel like there have been times in my career where I didn't fully appreciate things when I was like in the moment, because we can get so stuck on, oh, this is so great, but what about this? Like, yeah, I got new music Friday, but what about getting it next time? And what about getting
Right.
this and this and this? And it's like the younger version of me would be so like mind blown to see myself there, or like even when I was on tour to like see myself literally play like venues that I grew up going to, or like that I dreamed of playing.
Mhm.
And it's, I don't know, something that I have to remind myself of constantly. And like when I compare myself to other people, which I do all the time, which is terrible for me. And just to remind myself that I am living my dream, and I should not take it for granted all the time. Like, so many artists do, because it's so easy. Like we literally always have the shit in our fucking hands. Like we're
Yeah.
always looking at things that we could be or that we want.
Uh-huh.
When that just didn't really exist when I was little. It was more of like, I have this idea of like what I want to be, and I would love to get there. And it wasn't like you post a video and you go viral.
Right, right.
But
I think that's such a great message too. I mean, for any creative, even for myself, like I'm not a songwriter, but like I'll see one of our podcast listeners, and I'm like, oh, like it's at this number. And if you would have told me 2 years ago it was going to be at that number, my mind would have been blown. But then I'm like, but why isn't it at this number? Like, you know what I mean? Like you just always want to you just almost become like jaded in the sense that like, oh, well, why isn't it even more now? Like it's like a like a not selfish, I don't even know what the word is, but you're like keep striving forward, which is great. Obviously you wouldn't want to be like, okay, I'm content with this.
well, yeah, it's because you get so like, you get all the freaking chemicals going to your brain, like, oh, like so many people are paying attention to me and
Right.
all this stuff. So it's so easy to get lost in it. And also with writing the song, I wanted it to be open-ended enough so that I could very easily be talking to any listener about like anything, or also like a younger artist about anything, because there's like so many things starting off that I would have like told myself that I had to learn the hard way sometimes. And I wouldn't change any of it. It's just I wanted something kind of like a PSA that's more of like a poetic PSA.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, to tell yourself, like in that video when you're playing the violin, like, hey, you're gonna be writing songs and going on the road and putting out an album, and that you would have been like, wait, what? Like,
yeah,
it's
I'd be like,
even in high school, you'd probably been like, you're gonna be like one of these bands you're seeing tonight. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
so
wild
weird.
to think.
Yeah,
So,
I was like so introverted too, like in high school and stuff. I was like, there's no way I'm not doing that.
that's me too.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna be over here by myself, not
Yeah.
the center of attention. But again, I think the album is amazing. Tell me what you got to do this amazing tour. Charlotte Sands is like one of my I really want to get her on this podcast so bad. I've had a lot of artists, but like I didn't even know who she was until I heard that song that she did with Taking Back Sunday, and I was like,
Oh
damn,
yeah.
like who is this girl? And then I go back and listen to her earlier stuff, and obviously she's an incredible artist and doing amazing things. Like she just keeps getting bigger and bigger. But that must have been huge to be put on her tour with her, and she's here in Nashville as well. Did you know her
I've known her for a minute now. Like
Okay.
We started writing together, I think in 2019, or end of 2018 or something. Like,
wow.
So we've known each other for a while, and I've been like friends with like people in her crew too, like Danon, who produces her and like plays drums with her and stuff.
Yeah. And doesn't his wife like manage her, right?
And
yeah, that's crazy.
They're a very tight knit group, and they do what they do very well.
Yeah.
So I already and this being my first tour I'd ever been on, this was like, so it could not have been like better for me, because I knew it was going to be like a cool environment of like people I know and trust, and like that, I don't know, it was very cool. And also my fiance is my drummer, so
that's awesome.
Yeah, and it was very cool to like be able to travel with him, and like having someone that is so constant in my life already, like be around me all the time, and not somebody I like hired and that I have to like live with for a couple
right. Yeah, you have that support system with you.
Yeah. So I was very lucky that he was able to do that with me. And yeah, we had found out about the tour like a week before the first show, because there was supposed to be another band opening for her. And they unfortunately had a bunch of gear stolen out of their van. So they were like, can you guys do it? And I was like, can't, like, that's a week away. I don't know about this. And then I was like, yeah, like yes, like I will do it. And the first show was in Denver, Colorado, and I grew up going to Colorado. And I
you even have a song about
Colorado.
yeah, you have a song about
So
Colorado.
I was like, okay, this is a sign. Like I kind of have to do this. So it was awesome, and I really enjoyed. She is such like genuine, like very, very like caring fans too. So it was really cool to get to like meet everybody.
That's awesome. And you were direct support, right? Did you play her before?
Mhm.
That's cool. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. I mean, on the album and everything you're doing, I think is so awesome. And you're here in Nashville. I'd love to, come to, or are you playing any shows coming up? Or yeah, I mean, you just did the whole tour. You're probably like, just for a minute.
No, I'm like, when can I get out again? But
oh, okay.
yeah, no, I loved it. But I just played an album release show at the East Room like 2 weeks ago or something. Yeah, it was like the night the album came out. So I don't have anything in town for a while, but I'm playing in Columbus, Ohio and Atlanta, Georgia, which will be dope because I'm playing at a venue I literally grew up going to.
Wow.
But I'm playing with Friday Pilots Club, who are
cool.
Really
yeah, I know who they are. Wow. So did you play Atlanta on your tour with Charlotte?
No, I only did like West Coast. So literally we like drove my car out to like LA and stuff.
Wow.
So I was like, yeah, that's far, but like, fuck it, we'll do it. Sure.
Right. Well, exactly. Right. Wow. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. When are you playing Columbus? Do you know the date?
Let me pull it up on my calendar.
I guess I can look. Did you announce it already?
Yeah. So I'm playing Columbus the 14th and then Atlanta the 16th.
Of this month?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Columbus ain't that far.
It'll be really fun.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate your time today. And thank you for moving it up a little bit too. I have one more question for you. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Oh man. I would say my biggest piece of advice would be to learn as many things. Oh my God, my cat. I'm so sorry. I don't know if you can hear her. She's just like looking at herself in the mirror. Meow.
She's like, hurry up.
They're like never, I mean, they are social all the time, but I would say learn as many tools that you can. Because I, especially with this past release of this album, because I did not have a crazy budget or anything, I learned how to do a lot of things myself, like Photoshop, which always intimidated me. When I first started writing, I learned how to produce, which always intimidated me too. But all these things are kind of like instruments. Like you just need to practice them. You need to like put in the time to do it and like actually learn how to do it and practice it. And then it starts to be something that you're good at and like you can do it for yourself. And if you're independent, having tools like that is so helpful. So you don't have to outsource people to like design your merch or like design a website. I think, it can look intimidating and it can feel like a lot and like you're doing a lot, but it will help you a lot in the long run. Especially if you learn how to produce, like even just like producing some demos and having another producer come in and like finish it up with you. It is so helpful to get your ideas down so that you feel heard, because there's been so many times, even like me as a writer in a room, where I've like tried to explain something to a producer and like I know the terminology, I can say it, but they look at me like I don't know what I'm talking about because they just assume I don't. And so having that tool is very helpful to not only get what you're trying to say and like sound like out of your brain, but also like, this is your career, this is music. Like, shouldn't you learn all the tools that you need to get where you want to go? So